12 coincidences you won't believe actually happened. Number 12. Lucky chance. Australian truck driver Bill Morgan seemed to be suffering from some bad luck for some time. After surviving a terrible car accident, he also had a fatal heart attack. He was clinically dead for 14 minutes before coming back to life, but in the form of a coma. Bill's family decided to remove him off of life support 12 days after due to his minimal chance of recovery. However, Bill miraculously woke up. Given a new chapter in life, he proposed to his longtime girlfriend and also bought a couple of lottery tickets. Bill went on to win a brand new car from the lottery. A news station present wanted to film him and decided to recreate footage of Bill scratching a ticket for the newscast. After scratching off another ticket, he won 250,000 Australian dollars. Number 11. More than a movie. The 1976 film The Omen was filled with strange and terrifying coincidences during the film's production, which included special effects designer John Richardson traveling with his companion Liz Moore. They were in Holland on Friday, August 13, 1976, collaborating on another film when the car crashed, killing Moore. Richardson noticed her injuries bore an uncanny resemblance to the ones he designed for David Warner, who played Keith Jennings. As Richardson took a look outside the window, he noticed a sign that read a distance from a nearby town, which was Omen 66.6 kilometers. Number 10. What are the odds? Back in 1974, iconic Welsh actor Sir Anthony Hopkins starred in a movie called The Girl from Petrovka, based off George Pfeiffer's book. Shortly after signing on to act in the film, Hopkins traveled to London to try and get a copy of the novel. After searching several bookstores, he couldn't find one anywhere. Upset and frustrated, he went to Leicester Square to catch a train home, where he found a copy of the book on a bench nearby. He quickly grabbed the book and kept it. Interesting coincidence, right? Well, 2 years later, novelist George Pfeiffer paid a visit to the movie set and met Hopkins. Pfeiffer told the actor that he let a friend borrow his personal copy of the book, complete with notes, and his friend lost it in London. Hopkins, perplexed, pulled out his book with annotations and showed it to him. Pfeiffer was so amazed to find that it was the same book. Number 9. Twin tragedy. Neville and Erskine Eben were twin brothers who died in the most unexpected way. On July 30th, 1974, Neville was hit and killed on impact by a taxi driver named Willard Manders, driving a passenger while riding his moped. Nothing too crazy about that, right? Well, just a year later, on July 18th, 1975, his brother Erskine was also struck and immediately died while riding his moped. The vehicle that killed him was the same taxi driven by Willard Manders, carrying the same passenger. Number 8. Writer prediction. Back in the 19th century, famous horror author Edgar Allan Poe wrote a book called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. It centered around 4 people who survived from a shipwreck, who were stranded on a boat in the open water for several days. The survivors finally came to a conclusion to kill and consume the cabin boy named Richard Parker. A few years later, in 1884, the Migonet ship went down with only 4 survivors. After some time out on the sea, 3 crew members killed and ate the cabin boy to survive. His name was Richard Parker. Poe initially labeled his creative story silly, but with Poe being the master of creepy plots in his novels, I'm sure he couldn't have seen this coming. Number 7. Last Sight. Author Samuel Clemens, famously known as Mark Twain, was born on the same day Halley's Comet also made an appearance in 1835. The comet only passes Earth every 76 years, and Twain amazingly predicted he would pass in its next appearance. Twain was quoted as saying that it would be his biggest disappointment if he didn't go out with Halley's Comet, as he expected that he would. The comet reappeared in 1910, and Twain died of a heart attack the next day. His association with his prediction of his death is remarkable, as many people speculate Halley's Comet has become a subject of a list of predictions since 1705. Number 6. Heavenly Fate. West Side Baptist Church in Beatrice, Nebraska, routinely always had practice on Wednesday nights at 7:20 p.m. However, on Wednesday, March 1st, 1950, at 7:27 p.m., the church exploded due to a result of a natural gas leak. Amazingly, no one was injured during the explosion because all 16 members, including the choir director, were running late. 2 women experienced car trouble. The minister and his family was delayed due to last-minute ironing, and the others were late due to incomplete homework, listening to their favorite show, and one person woke up late from a nap. Other members could also think of no particular reason, but they were just late. Number 5. Charles Coughlin Coffin. Anglo-Irish actor and playwright Charles Coughlin had passed after a month's illness in Galveston, Texas. His body was placed in a temporary metal casket and kept in a vault at a local cemetery until further instructions. Almost a year later, the disposition of the body had yet to be decided. In the meantime, his casket was swept away by a storm surge from the disastrous Galveston hurricane of 1900. Ripley's Believe It or Not reported that 8 years later, his coffin was found by fishermen near his summer home he had bought in Prince Edward Island, Canada. The coffin supposedly floated an incredible 2,000 miles to where he formerly lived. Some people found this discovery unbelievable, but they were able to identify him by a metal nameplate on the coffin. Number 4. James Dean died following a horrific car crash in September 1955 while driving his Porsche sports car. When the car was taken away from the accident site, the engine fell out and shattered the mechanic's legs. Afterward, a doctor bought the engine who installed it in his car and was seriously injured during a race. Another driver in the same race also suffered a few injuries in his vehicle, which contained James Dean's drive shaft. Dean's car was eventually repaired, but the garage it was housed in was destroyed by a fire. The car went on to be displayed in Sacramento, California, but fell off its resting mount and broke a person's hip. Another incident occurred when a truck driver en route to deliver the car to another exhibit lost control and was crushed when it fell off the back. It somehow mysteriously vanished during another transport, and the car remains missing to this day. Number 3. Twin Tail. A set of twins, separated at birth, went on to live similar lives before learning about each other's existence. Jim Lewis and Jim Springer not only had the same name, but shared the same habits, like biting their nails, smoking cigarettes, experiencing headaches, and even traveling to the same Florida beach. Both brothers became police officers and were married to women named Linda, and both men later remarried to another woman named Betty. They each had a son named James and also had a dog with the same name. After finding each other after 39 years, they both agreed that the eerie similarities had to be more than just a coincidence. Their case was so extraordinary that they became a subject of fascination, and their parallels were studied by a doctor. Number 2. Miss Unsinkable. Violet Jessup was a nurse and ocean liner stewardess, famously known for surviving 3 sinking ships. In 1910, she was working aboard the RMS Olympic when the ship crashed into the HMS Hawk. Thankfully, there were no deaths. 2 years later, she became a stewardess on the RMS Titanic. The ocean liner struck an iceberg and many lost their lives, but she was then ordered on a lifeboat where she was rescued by the RMS Carpathia. Finally, Jessup served on the HMHS Britannic when it sank due to a mysterious explosion. She barely made it out of the water alive as her lifeboat was being sucked under the stern. She was forced to jump into the water, where she suffered a head injury. While some may call it bad luck or just a coincidence, she continued working on ships until her death at 83 years old in 1971. Number 1. Simpsons predict the future. The Simpsons has correctly predicted several events that have happened on more than one occasion. The show aired an episode in which characters Gunter and Ernest were mauled. The episode aired in 1993 for it to only happen 10 years later to Las Vegas trainers and magicians Siegfried and Roy in 2003. In a 1997 episode, a school lunch lady is seen using horse meat as substitute for breakfast meat. Then in 2013, companies like Birdseye and Taco Bell revealed they were using horse meat instead of the meat advertised. The Simpsons also predicted Donald Trump's presidency back in 2000. These coincidences are starting to become freaky.